so we will kick off today's conversation on these. I'm excited to introduce our first speaker for today, our fabulous StartOut board chair, Genesis Garcia.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to welcome everyone here today. My name is Genesis Garcia. I use she and her pronouns, and after 4 years of serving on the board of directors of StartOut and serving on my local programming board before that, I was recently elected chair. I am based in New York City. And before I get into it, it'd be great if folks, as Danny mentioned earlier, could introduce themselves in the chat box, share your name, your location. And if you're a founder, be sure to share the name of your company too. We'd love to know. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about StartOut's work in this current political climate, which is providing a lot of challenges for the LGBTQ plus community and for the global economy. But I probably don't have to tell any of you that, which is why I'm going to focus on StartOut's plan. But first, I was asked to share a little bit about myself, why StartOut and entrepreneurship is super important to me. As you can see here on the photo, my grandparents are small business owners who were born in the Dominican Republic. They launched their first farm stand back in the 50s. Going from village to village, selling local produce before coming to New York in the 80s and working hard to establish themselves in the city. And their entrepreneurial spirit really remains with me as they battle many challenges as immigrants. And I'm personally seeing a lot of these challenges expand across communities in my life. So that is why StartOut really has meant so much to me, the opportunity to ensure individual LGBTQ plus folks have the opportunity to launch, scale their companies, and so our entire community has the opportunity to be a part of something bigger and better. But as I mentioned, and as everyone on this call knows, we are facing some real uncertainties as a community. LGBTQ plus people, especially trans people and young people, are under attack yet again. DEI initiatives at companies and universities and within the government are facing historic scrutiny. And with the economy, which many thought would be hitting new records this year, we're continuing to face a lot of uncertain times. And quite honestly, these challenges put enormous pressure on anyone in this country, but especially for an organization that is focused on economic opportunity and development for our people. And I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't concerned for our economy, for our community, and for StartOut. The good news, though, is that we are prepared. The last few months of 2024, we went through a new strategic planning process. I want to thank my predecessor, Mohit Jolly, who served as the chair throughout that process, our CEO, Brian Richardson, for leading a lot of that work, and to our pro bono consultants from Bain & Company, who brought the very highest level of professionalism and accuracy to the job, and everyone on the StartOut board and staff. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you, more than 500 StartOut community members who gave us feedback during the process. You filled out surveys, you went to the focus groups, you had individual interviews with Bain & Company, and your feedback was invaluable to this plan. Brian is going to share some high-level data and also a refreshed mission and vision. But before he does, I want to be clear. We are facing the very biggest challenges we have ever faced since StartOut's founding 15 years ago. But StartOut's strength is our community, and that community and everyone in our community doing their part is what will help us not only survive during these times, but to thrive. So I will now invite our StartOut CEO, Brian, who helped bring Bain & Company on board and who has helped StartOut grow and thrive since first taking the reins 2 years ago. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Genesis. It's great to see you. And hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brian. I serve as CEO of StartOut. And for those who've just joined us, if you would like to, please drop a note in the chat and tell us where you're calling in from today, because we'd love to hear where everyone's from. And if you have a company, feel free to plug your company in the chat too, because that's what we do at StartOut. So I agree with what Genesis was just saying. Community is key, right? It's this community that led us to Stonewall. It was community that led us through the AIDS crisis. It was community that won us marriage equality. It's community that will continue to push us forward no matter what comes our way. But listen, there's a lot coming our way, right? So many queer people in this country have been lucky to grow up in a time over the last several decades where it looked like the march to progress was a straight line, no pun intended. But our community knows not everything is always very straight, right? And now we're hitting some curves and some winding paths. But as Genesis mentioned, it's not just LGBTQ plus folks who are facing uncertainty. It's our entire economic system. The prognosticators thought that by this point in 2025, we would see VC funding levels back to 2021 levels, but we're not. As Crunchbase reported recently, we've seen investments in late-stage startups surge this year, but we've seen significantly less money on seed and early stage startups across the globe. Venture funding was at 113 billion in Q1, which is a strong quarter, but a third of that was a result of OpenAI's $40 billion raise. So in a sense, it was a really good quarter for companies run by queer founders and CEOs. But in reality, without that one round, investments would have been down quarter over quarter. And market volatility has delayed potential IPOs, and the tariffs have a very real impact on those startups in need of hardware, just as it has an impact on individual portfolios, which may further depress investments and frankly, donations to nonprofits like ours. Furthermore, the attacks on DEI initiatives have put a chilling effect on potential investors and partners alike, further challenging nonprofits across the country, including StartOut. I'll be honest, some of our long-term corporate partners have had to reconsider their support this year, given both the political pressures and the economic uncertainty. So that's our reality. It's our environmental assessment, if you will. So as Genesis talked about, we've just finalized our new strategic plan. And as you do with any strategy for any startup, you have to do an environmental assessment. That's the environmental assessment for us right now. But you also need to do some consumer research, right? Some customer research. So when we launched our strategic planning process last year with Bain & Company, we ended up surveying more than 500 StartOut members, founders, investors, community members, ecosystem members, to learn about what you gain from StartOut and what you need from us moving forward. And we got reams of feedback from y'all, and I want to share a few key takeaways up on the screen right now. First of all, StartOut has exceptionally strong brand awareness and loyalty among those who know us. We regularly actually outpace our peers, both in queer spaces and in entrepreneur spaces. Secondly, the big top line reason people come to StartOut is community, right? The opportunity to meet a co-founder, to meet an investor, to meet another queer person navigating the same tumultuous world and making a difference and getting it done. So community is by far and away the biggest reason people appreciate StartOut and why our net promoter score is so high. Other reasons people appreciate StartOut is access to capital, industry-specific knowledge, and also mentorship. But even still, and I know I've talked a lot about challenges still remain. We've got 40% of our community have reported that they felt the need to hide their identity from some investors. And 2/3 of our community have reported that at some point in their career, they felt discrimination due to their sexuality or their gender identity. So the challenges are real, right? And I realize I feel like I've been a lot of doom and gloom on this. But that is some of the assessments that we have. So our board of directors, led by Genesis and Mohit, took all this data into consideration. And luckily, we met 2 weeks after inauguration. So we had a good understanding of the anti-DEI executive action and a good understanding of the environment that we're currently facing. So after a multi-day retreat and reviewing of the data, the board of directors updated and refreshed our mission and our vision to make them shorter, to make them clearer, and to ensure that we are unambiguously fighting for queer community and inclusive of all people. So I'm excited to actually share with you our updated mission right now on the next slide, which is pure and simple to increase opportunity and success for LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs on the call today. Our goal, our mission, everything we do is to increase opportunity and success for you. Regardless of the world we are living in and regardless of the challenges you are facing, we will be here for you. Our vision, the world we envision in the years ahead, once we've completed our mission, is a world where every entrepreneur can thrive on a level playing field, regardless of orientation, regardless of identity. And I'll be honest, our conversations with several of our key partners, this vision has resonated a great deal, given the unfair accusations that they have faced, claiming DEI work gives an unfair advantage. I know, you know, everyone in the StartOut community knows, no one is looking for an unfair advantage. DEI is intended to provide the same advantage and a level playing field for those who are often left behind. And that's what this vision makes clear, is that we want that level playing field. And to get there, we will need to do everything in our power to ensure greater opportunities and success for queer founders. And until we do that, the playing field is not level. So that's a lot over the next 3.5 years, which is the duration of the plan. How are we going to do that? Our incredible StartOut team, and I'd like to give a shout out to anyone on the call who's calling in from the StartOut team, is working now to implement this mission and this vision, specifically built around 3 key pillars. Pillar 1 is to build the best-in-class network. This goes back to community, right? How can we make sure that everyone in our network is connected and feels the love and the power of that community, and is also getting concrete skills and resources and networking out of that community? Our second pillar is to focus our program growth on scalable founders. That is our niche. That is where we excel the most. And how can we make sure that any growth or new programming or opportunities help them grow and scale their companies? And pillar 3, to ensure that we become the go-to resource for queer entrepreneurs. There are still a lot of LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs out there who don't know about us. And so how do we create opportunities for them to know about us and come to us as their first stop on their process of building their companies? So we're putting this plan into action right now. And I have an exciting announcement to make today. You probably already heard about it if you follow us on social media, because we announced it about a month ago. But as the survey data showed earlier, we use data to make decisions. And the data we used in this case was a paper that we will be publishing next week about data within StartOut and other places as well too, called the Entrepreneurial Pipelines Report, or the Leaky Pipelines Report. Specifically looking at founders across the spectrum and realizing that that in this, as you read on the slide, that queer founders as a whole face significant disparities. You know that, and often conceal their identity. We just talked about that as well too. But even more so, founders who are queer and Black, queer and female, and queer and trans, and queer and gender nonconforming are less likely to move through the entrepreneurship pipeline and be accepted and promoted in later stage programs. So early stage programs, there may be some opportunities or there is representation across the broad spectrum of the rainbow, but in later stage programs, there's not as many people getting into these programs, even though they're applying for them. So our vision, going back to that pillar of building the best-in-class network, focusing on scalable founders, and becoming the go-to resource, was how do we create opportunities for early stage founders who may fall into some of these categories to build the skills that they need to grow and develop, so soon they will be accepted into those later stage programs. And so that's the big announcement that I'm excited to make, which is our Spark Lab. This is a cohort-based, focused on our network, of 15 founders, where for 10 weeks, they will participate in an intensive early stage program to build the skills, the resources, and connections that they need to move forward. By the time they graduate, these founders will have a business plan, they will have a pitch deck, they will have connections to investors, specifically so we can fill the void in the space and provide that high touch for early stage. We've got high touch programs like the Growth Lab for mid-stage founders. We're building high touch programs for later stage founders, but how do we also make sure that there is a high touch program for early stage founders? So that's the Spark Lab. I won't go into the details about Spark Lab, only to say it's a great program and applications are due tomorrow. So if you're an early stage founder, go to our website right now, startout.org, and make sure you apply for the Spark Lab and read more about it and make sure you qualify for it. And then you can get those skills and resources you need to take your company to the next level. So that's our vision, and that's where we're looking to take our work moving forward. I'm excited to answer a few questions later on in the call, but I wanted to give you some quick updates. I realized part of this was talking about the challenges our community is facing. You know this, everyone knows it, you can't get away from it, but StartOut is still here. Even though we're facing challenges with partnerships and opportunities, we are still going to continue to fight for you and create and provide the resources you need to succeed. So thank you for joining us today. I'm done talking for right now, and instead I'm going to turn it over to the real people, our founders themselves. But to introduce our two founders, I'd like to introduce Tarik Perkins, who has been with StartOut for about 3 years now, and last year was promoted to our Chief Programs Officer, where he oversees all of our work building knowledge and skills for founders across the country. And it's just an honor to get to work with Tarik all the time. So I'm thrilled to turn the microphone over to Tarik.
Thank you so much, Brian. Greetings to all of our viewers today. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce you to two amazing founders today. I'm going to start with Asha Farrah. Asha founded Reducify in 2020 to disrupt the student loan system after paying off her own debt in a lightning fast 2.5 years. Now she's building solutions for 44 million borrowers, driven by a vision of financial empowerment and systemic change. As a 2025 Camelback Ventures Fellow, she joins a powerhouse group of founders tackling key issues in BIPOC communities. We're spotlighting Asha today for her role in the pilot of our newest program that Brian just talked about, the StartOut Spark Lab Incubator. The pilot ended last year. Welcome, Asha. Next,
Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. Next, I want to introduce Omar Alvarez. Omar is the founder of KINNECT, a digital platform using AI to preserve family memories and foster intergenerational storytelling in private, invite-only spaces. Backed by Techstars Rising Stars Fund and Slauson & Co., Omar brings deep expertise in brand and growth strategy from leadership roles at Nike, Levi's, Hilton, Kendo, Hims and Hers, and Reel. His experience fuels his mission to drive innovation and meaningful connections. We're highlighting Omar today for his participation in our StartOut mentorship and access to capital programs. Welcome, Omar.
Thanks for having me. Good to meet.
Awesome. All right, we're going to have a little conversation today. I want our audience to get to know you a little bit more, learn a little bit about your companies, and then we're going to talk about the impact of working in the programs delivered by StartOut. Let's start with you, Asha. Tell us a little bit about your company. What inspired you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me today. So I'll talk about what inspired me to start Reducify. For me, Reducify is deeply personal. Its origin story starts with me being the average American, going to school, pursuing my university degree to make my mom proud, but not really having a true understanding of financial debt in terms of student loan debt. And so I think after graduation, it hit me that I had made almost a very expensive mistake and that there was no plan to repay that student loan debt. So it's like there's an application to get into college. They guide you through those 4 to 5 years, but there's no guidance on how to structure financial responsibility around student loan debt. And so I'm out in the world almost owing 6 figures worth of student loan debt with no plan. And it felt overwhelming. You know, my mental health suffered from it, like many Americans are facing now. And so I just didn't know what to do. And I was asking my peers, you know, how are you paying back your student loan debt? No one had an answer. And so that in that moment birthed Reducify, because I said, I need to do something about it. And so I turned to my co-founder, just feeling very desperate. And I said, please be my accountability partner. Let's just hold each other accountable and just set these goals together and see how it turns out. And what we didn't know at the time is that that plan was really backed by behavioral science, because you have a 95% chance of achieving a goal when you commit to working with someone else and you set a desired time frame. We did both of those things, and we were successful in paying back, as you mentioned, $130,000 of student loan debt in 2.5 years.
Amazing. I love your story. It's so relatable. Even if you don't have student loan debt, any kind of debt, or just any kind of struggle in life where you need that accountability, we can relate to that. And it's just really an impactful and moving story. Okay, Omar, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start KINNECT and a little bit about this startup?
Yeah, thanks for having me. For KINNECT, it's just like Asha, very personal. My lived-in experiences kind of brought me here. There are 3 phases in my life that kind of attributed to building KINNECT. The first is losing my grandfather to dementia for 10 years. And being a translator in my family, I, as a kid, was able to understand really early the importance of cultural understandings and storytelling and connection. The second was working at Folks Health. It's one of the largest queer telehealth environments in the country. And it also became the place where I got to see so many of my closest friends transition and also ask for more privacy and spaces for them to connect. The third one was I get choked up about it. My buddy died 2 years ago from cancer, and he was my age at that time, 31. And that became the second time someone in my life asked me for more privacy, a different place for connection, a space where it's kind of proving the humanity of your life, my life, etc., and looking at cultural passing. I think Connect is really much born by the lack of missing and connection today, but also the missing in privacy today, and features that actually improve a relationship instead of hurting our relationships, as we're seeing in Meta and other, environments like that.
Thank you for sharing that, Omar. Again, another very relatable solution that's driven on solving real human challenges and problems. That's the uniting theme that I see between both of your startups. Let's move back to you, Asha. Could you just maybe share with us a little bit about what drew you to Spark Lab, and how did it shape your journey as a founder?
Absolutely. So I'll take it back before Spark Lab. I had actually applied to be a StartOut founder, which is another opportunity that exists in the StartOut community. I think Brian spoke to this word when he was speaking, opportunity. You guys offer so many opportunities. And so I came in as an early stage founder, applied, and I believe Danielle onboarded me. And so when I was onboarded as a founder, I received a scholarship to participate for 12 months in the founder community. That was a game changer for me, because I think when you're an early stage founder, capital, money, however you want to say it, that's something that's always, you're compromising for one thing or the other. And so if I take this opportunity, then I can't do this. And you made it very easy for me. And so I participated as a founder, and I received a mentor named Lucy Lee, who was fantastic. I must shout her out. She does design work, and she helped elevate Reducify's design in our pitch deck, other things that we utilize, our website. She really upgraded us, even our MVP. And so from there, I think the impression was made on both sides. I was impressed with StartOut, and I believe StartOut was impressed with me. So I was invited to participate in the Spark Lab. And I think the Spark Lab was a game changer. I mean, Tarik, feel like the weeks went by so quickly. And I received another fabulous mentor, Beatrice Stonebanks. And I keep using the word mentorship because I think, in our community, Brian just spoke about, sometimes when you're queer, sometimes when you're a woman, sometimes when you're Black, I'm the triple whammy. You feel like who you are, you can't fully be yourself. With both of those mentors, Lucy and Beatrice, I could be myself. I didn't have to over explain myself. So I was able to get to the work with the Spark Lab. And that's what felt really good. So as Brian mentioned, I walked away with a business plan. I figured out, how do I want to go to market? Those things that you really feel like as a founder, you're always so busy. Everything is time. Where I put time here, there. That Spark Lab gave me the amount of time to lock in with the mentors. So I'm so grateful for that season.
And it was really just a joy and pleasure to watch you go through the process in the pilot.
Yes.
This is a program that we've been conceptualizing for years. And as Brian shared, it's backed in all the research that we've been doing. And to see it come to fruition and to see the founders go through it was really a reward for me. And just, it's such an honor to just be talking with you about it now on this platform today. Let's shift back to you a little bit, Omar. You participated in our mentorship program. Can you share a little bit about a moment maybe when a mentor made a difference for you, or what makes StartOut mentorship different?
Oh my gosh, I am like the queen of mentorship here at StartOut. I have gone through I say gone through, that's like the wrong way, but I have leaned in to asking for help from 5 to 8 different mentors and all different pillars or verticals of a business, from fundraising decks to getting advice on design. Someone like Asha came in and supported me for multiple weeks looking at our design process and giving us direct feedback. And they were a VP at JP Morgan Chase. What? A different mentor came in and advised on just positioning and wording and how I'm going across sales. So I think for me, when I look at the mentorship program, it's really how you plan, your individual self plans to enter these spaces. You already know that this mentor is volunteering their time to support you as a founder in your journey. So prepare the questions that you're going in. You're specifically looking for vertical support, right? So lean into that conversation. And like Asha said, it's like so beautiful to walk into these spaces and not feel like I have to code switch, change my presentation, change my language. Like if I want to like say cis or gay words in there, I can. And that's what makes it really comfortable is to go into these mentors spaces and then pick the ones that you need for your business. I think as we all know, like Asha said, there's trades off as we're building or thinking about something. Capital is huge, but sometimes a mentorship can be just as powerful as capital because that mentorship can unlock how you get more capital in the future or even an introduction to get capital. So I kind of look at StartOut as really kind of fulfilling a bunch of the needs of the entrepreneur founder journey, and mentorship is huge. It's so important across any kind of space that's actually providing community and support. So really grateful for the mentorship at StartOut. 100% would have received my last two investments if it wasn't because of these mentors coming in and reminding me to speak the language of the VC and not what I want to feel.
Amazing. There's so much in there that just really brought me a lot of joy to hear, especially the bit about working with a VP from JP Morgan Chase, because I know that partnership with JP Morgan has been extremely beneficial to our founder community because of the access to the high caliber employees that have signed up for the mentorship program. So thanks for calling that out. I want to stay with you a little bit, Omar, before I move on. You also participate in our Access to Capital program. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's been like and how that has supported you in your capital raise journey?
Yeah, I don't know if Danielle's on the line, but big shout out to Danielle. Like, thank you for everything. You are the best. I think the cool thing about StartOut is it's a smaller team, obviously. So you really get to meet everyone at StartOut as you're growing and looking for resources and support. So I will say that the access to capital, in my opinion, as a founder on this side, I know it's a team involvement, team support, but Danielle has been like the person to really support me. So it's a very simple process. You upload your content, your materials, and then from there, the team, without you knowing, is going ahead and sharing these materials with other investors that might be interested. Sometimes you get an email within a week or a month. It could be different time periods of someone that's sharing interest. And then from there, you have the conversation and see if you're a match. But similarly, I feel really grateful that there are people at StartOut that are looking out for me and looking out for my business and also able to like think about me as presentations come in, or sorry, as offers come in. You know, investors come in, they're like, we're looking in consumer or B2B, right? And then you have the StartOut team actually knowing which founders can.
Awesome. Awesome. I think I had a bit of a technical glitch there with my internet, but it seems to be back now. Thanks for keeping that going. Let's check in with you, Asha. Can you share with us maybe one insight or key takeaway that came out of the program that you may not have expected?
Yeah, I'm definitely. But I also want to echo something Omar said. The mentorship. I know I keep going back to that. It was so key for me. That was like my largest takeaway. Again, working with Beatrice during the Spark Lab, she got me together and she helped me really figure out how to raise funding. And I think, again, when you're early stage, raising funding can be intimidating because you're thinking, you know, do I have enough traction? Am I where other companies? You're measuring yourself against other companies. So having someone so sharp as Beatrice prepare me for investor conversations was key, because 8 weeks later, I was able to raise $40,000. And I definitely attribute that to the work that I did with Beatrice in conjunction with the Spark Lab. So to your other question, I think you just asked me an additional question. Do you mind repeating?
Yes, I was just wondering if you could share just, you know, one key unexpected insight or connection that came from the program.
Yeah, I think that again, working with Beatrice, I think when I first started with Reducify, I initially saw our buyer as universities. And I think that I came in with a one-track mind about it. And again, working with my mentor and Beatrice, she expanded my mind. It never has to be one thing when you are building a company. And I think, again, sometimes as founders, we have we already have our minds made up. This is how it's going to be. This is how the startup is going to work. And this is the only path to success. And I think that when you come into the Spark Lab, remain open, because you never know what that key is that you're going to get from your mentor. And so for me, it was remaining open about how many buyers Reducify can fit into.
Fantastic. All right, let's stay with you a little bit, Asha, as we come down to the end of our time. What's next for Reducify?
Yeah, I think a lot is next for Reducify. I think, as Brian talked about, there is this new political landscape that's shaping a lot of things. And one of those things is student loan debt. I think we're aware that there are going to be some wage garnishments and some income tax garnishments around student loan debt if you are delinquent. So Reducify is expanding. We're expanding outside of just working with universities, and we are moving into the corporate space as a benefit, a wellness benefit, particularly a financial wellness benefit. And so we're meeting our users where they are. We recognize as they get out of university, we want them to utilize the 6-month grace period where interest is not accruing. And we know they're early stage professionals just getting caught up in their jobs that they've been offered. So we want to make sure that we're not just offering Reducify at universities, but we're also offering it to them in the corporate workspace.
That is absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing that. And back to you, Omar. What's next for KINNECT?
Well, I'm hoping to close my lead investor within the next like 90 days, 60 days is my goal. We'll see if that happens. If it doesn't, you'll see me crying somewhere outside on TikTok, but that's my first goal. The second would be expanding our product to out of iOS to Android and web to kind of fulfill a global audience. And the third thing is just to stay like positive and warm. I think as a founder, we all know this. Like it's sometimes can get kind of dark and late night. So I think just taking care of myself is like it's just equally as important as anything else.
Well, I have a great feeling about it. And I just want you to know that StartOut will be here for you in whatever outcome. We'll be here celebrating, or we'll be here to make sure that you're up and at 'em for the next go round. So thank you both. I want to just say a really, really big thank you both for sharing so much about your personal stories and about your startups with us today. It was really, awesome to get to know a little bit more about your journeys. And I want to just hand it back over to Danny. And thank you both again.
Thank you.
Fantastic, folks. And feel free to stay on camera, invite Brian and Genesis back. This is your time. If you have any questions that you would like to ask either our founders or our team that's here for you about any of the things that you have seen or heard, we would love to hear from you. Please feel free to either drop them directly in the chat or the Q&A function. Omar and Asha, I will say you got a lot of love in the chat, so make sure to check that out. People are super excited about the work that you're doing and grateful for you being a part of this with us.
And Danny, if I could just tag onto that too. Yeah, I think Steve said somewhere in it just how inspiring both of your stories are. And it's so true. And thank y'all for sharing. And I think I also love just how many people you mentioned on your journey, right? Because entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, but it doesn't have to be. And as Genesis talked about, community is why StartOut is here. Our goal is to make sure entrepreneurship is not a lonely journey. And how many, whether it was Beatrice or Danielle or Lucy, that you just kept mentioning names of folks that you're working with to help you close that round or help you adjust your business plan or help recognize the reality of political situations. It's inspiring and lovely and wonderful, and just takes me back to that initial thing Genesis said, that was community. So thank y'all for that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's see. Nothing yet, but I got some questions that came through. To Genesis, you shared that you were once a programming board member. How did that experience kind of help your passion for entrepreneurship or getting you to your board level role?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was a great way to start getting into the StartOut community. It's one of the things I always recommend folks do when they want to be more involved is, do it at a local level. And just, finding that community definitely expanded. Some of my best friends now came from just the programming boards and doing a lot of the events. I actually helped kick off our social hours, so learned a lot about booking bars and restaurants for event spaces and getting our community together. And just seeing and hearing the stories of folks like myself, living all around the different boroughs in New York and coming together just really helped me with that sense of community, but also made me more passionate about StartOut and seeing the work that we were doing. Also, the support from the StartOut team. That was one of the first things I noticed was that it wasn't like you're left to fend for yourself. We had, daily check-ins, and we were, getting all the support that we can in terms of how to like throw some great events and other networks and resources that we can leverage. So that actually really helped me see that this was a very, passionate organization. And when, the invitation came to join the board, it was obviously a yes, because I saw that there was a lot there that I wanted to tap into, and more folks that I wanted to communicate with.
Fantastic. Thank you. For our folks, Genesis talked a little bit about programming board. I'm a little biased. I get to work with a programming board. So I love our folks. Volunteer leadership is incredibly important, and we have many different ways that we are able to access volunteer leadership at StartOut. Programming boards being one of them, as a mentor, as an expert in all of these ways. So we're grateful to have you, Genesis. It's nice having one of our volunteers as our lead for the organization at a board level. Thank you. We do have a question for Omar. What has been one of your biggest business challenges, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest business challenges. I think the beginning was the hardest for me, is how to really align on the ICP and figure out exactly the business model I was going after. I think a lot of us lead with hearts and intuition, and I think sometimes those need to be met with reality. So I think finding the right mentors and doing the right jobs to be done, business like work, has allowed me to really figure out exactly like what is the strategy that will drive revenue to the business. But still is connected to a passion. I think sometimes that's the hard part, is like how much do you want to lean into capitalism versus leaning into like community support is as a founder, but they can work together. So I think the hardest moment for me was just aligning on those two intentions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Omar. Yeah, I mean, capitalism is real. We all know this. We live in this world, and trying to figure out how to do good is important for all of us.
I don't know if this is okay, but I have a question for Genesis and Brian too. So I actually was recently in a meeting with one of the heads for Google for Startups, and amazing person. I think most of us have probably seen a lot of the great work Google has done in these DEI specific type of initiatives. However, they are actually part of, Brian, what you mentioned, part of the companies that are scaling back and pulling away from these programs. So for example, I was getting excited to apply for this year's Google for Startups Latinos. I'd been wanting to join this program for 3 years, and I learned that they canceled it along with all the other ones. And now they're only going to have one or two specific Google for Startups. I'm curious, as like a leadership team of StartOut, how do you see this A, affecting our community, but B, what are the ways that maybe we can almost change the narrative or create something new, if you will? But I guess there's like a vacuum, an open space, right? I'm just curious to hear from you two.
Yeah, I think and Jess would love your thoughts as well too, but I think this is the $1 million question, or $2.7 million question, because that's our annual budget right now. And a real challenge that we're seeing. I think for me, the next few years are going to be tough, right? But one of the things that's incumbent on us at StartOut is to prove the naysayers wrong. We know that, for example, I think we talk regularly about the data that we have at StartOut, that we know in the last 20 years, $2 trillion have been invested in startups, but only 0.5% have gone to career founders. We get 84 cents on the dollar when we do get money. But the other part of that is what's more exciting. We end up hiring more people when we get funding. We end up filing more patents when we get funding. We end up having a better economic return for our investors when we get funding, and a better economic output for our communities when we get funding. And so over these next few years, even though some of these partners may be walking away and making what I think is a bad, not just a bad political decision, but a bad economic decision and a bad community decision, we're going to show them that it's the wrong decision too. Because even though we're facing these challenges and these upwinds, and some people may be turning their backs on us, we're going to still do our job and get it done and show that like we're still rising. It's a tough way to go, and by no means would my preference be to be going down this path with less partners, but we're still going to go down the path, and we're still going to show those partners who are taking a step back that they're stepping in the wrong direction. Genesis?
No, and I was going to add to that, there are partners though that are sticking by us. And though that's also what we want to focus on, is those that are still standing next to us and believe in our mission and our vision. And we're also working with them directly, right? Because they have challenges themselves. So it's how can we work together to continue this work? Sorry, I just said work twice, but you know what I mean? Like we want to make sure that they know they're not alone, we're not alone. So if we can team up and make it easier for both of us to be able to continue doing what we've been doing, I think that that's the goal, is just keeping communication open. I think folks are scared on both sides. And so it's easy to run, but you know, we're not, like Brian said, we're not running away. So for those that want to stick with us, like, happy to have a conversation, see how we can make it easier for you, you know, because I know that there's a lot of attacks happening on these organizations. So, you know, what can we do to ease that blow for both of us?
Fantastic. Thank you both for that. I actually have a question for you, two-parter that I'm going to combine because folks are interested in mentorship. So when, you mentioned your fantastic mentors, the questions are, how do you decide what advice to take and what advice not to take from your mentors, especially for folks who might be new to mentorship? What tips would you give them for engaging a mentor? Like, how do you balance the value of the relationship without feeling like you're imposing too much on them?
Thank you for the question. I think it's important to set the tone with the mentor at the beginning, set expectations. And that's what I did with Beatrice. What styles work best for you? And so when I asked her and she asked me, I said, I like a collaborative approach. I don't like someone solely just giving me information. I like to think through things together. So I think that's the first piece of advice, is what style of leadership works best for you in a mentor. And when you establish that, now you have boundaries, so you don't go outside of that when you're discussing certain topics. So that's the piece of advice I would offer.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And Tarik, I wonder if you've got any thoughts to that too, because you work so closely with Allison Wright, who does a phenomenal job leading our mentorship program.
Absolutely. I think it's all about coming and showing up prepared as well. Our mentors are, generously donating their time and bringing a lot of wealth of knowledge to the table. So I think one of the best things that founders can do is to really make sure that they, do the work, do the groundwork, come, having some amount of research to bring to the table. The more you put in is the more you will get out. But to sort of speak to the question about how do you know what information to take and not to take, we do have to remember that, mentors are people as well, and they, may have their own opinions and biases that, may be counter to, what's giving you your gut feeling about what you do to your business. So you really have to also remember that you are the founder of this startup and you are in the driver's seat. And then you get to make that option and decision to take that decision to not follow advice that you might be getting. And, there's always a way to respectfully share your opinion and to try to, get a better understanding from your mentor and respect their experience and what they bring to the table, but also to stay true to your values or what might be your North Star and guiding light as you go through the process. And, we are here to support you if a relationship with a mentor is not panning out to be what it should be. Allison, the director of education and the one who manages the mentorship program, does a fantastic job of checking in to ensure that the relationship is actually progressing as it should. And we can, help you navigate any turbulence that you might be experiencing as you go through your mentorship relationship. Thanks for the question, Brian.
And I'll jump in one more time and echo what Tarik's just said. It's really important to recognize that you are the founder, right? This is your vision. But I think also be open to being flexible, be open to pivoting, because I think where you start when you first conceptualize your business is never where you end. And it's those lovely pieces of advice that you get from mentors, like I said, from me, Beatrice, and Lucy, that can help elevate your business. So when you get that feedback, don't necessarily take it as a negative. See if that's the pivot maybe you need to take it to the next level.
One thing to add, I love this mentorship conversation. Sorry, it's the best one. I just might sound weird, but like, sit on the advice you get too. I think all of us tend to react so fast because why not? We're founders, you're moving quick, right? You're taught to move quick in this space, but sometimes the best advice is the advice that sits with you and you like come back to it in a day or two, like write it down somewhere and be like, I was told this, sit on it, come back and see if it resonates still or if the last 2 days have changed. But yeah, completely, it's everyone here.
It's good advice for life too.
Agreed. Fantastic. We actually have a question back for our founders, part of our founder Q&A. As you think about your time with StartOut programming, what is one thing you wish you would have done differently or perhaps taken more advantage of during your experiences?
I got one. I've thought about this one too. So when you book the mentorship meetings, you have to fill out a form, and then you can, proactively tell them like what you're going to be focusing on. I think what I forget, and something that was just mentioned, is these are mentors with their own lives too, their own businesses too, their own families too. They're not going to remember every single detail about your business. So not just these mentors, but even like investors I'm speaking to, I now send them about a day, 24 hours in advance, a template that has like a business summary of like who I am, purpose of the meeting, the details, etc. So that way they have enough time to process. And also, since you booked the mentor meeting, you should kind of know why you're booking that meeting. List those first two or three questions in the beginning of the email, so that's top of mind as a scan. So then when you enter your meeting, you're all on the same page. And I say all because sometimes you have one or two people in the meeting too. But yeah, I think one thing is like prepare them to prepare yourself to have a good conversation.
Fantastic advice.
I'll jump in, and I think I said this on the feedback for the Spark Lab. I wish that the Spark Lab was longer. And Tarik, maybe you can speak to it, but it felt like it went by so quickly, and it was such a wealth of information that I was like, man, I could have used 2 to 3 more weeks. And so with that being said, for those who have one more day to apply, really take that season in on your founder journey because it goes by quickly. Take stock of the ups and downs. See where you started from versus where you close at, because that's really important. This is part of your founder story. Now, start out as part of the fabric of your founder story. So really take stock of the journey.
Fantastic. Thank you. One last question for Brian before we get to close out in our space. Brian, you get to travel representing StartOut in many, many different places. Any highlights, moments of joy where you're like, oh, I met this amazing founder or this awesome business?
There's not enough to even answer that question because I was going to say moments of joy. It's every time I get to talk to a founder because Omar and Asha y'all are incredible. And I don't want to, this sounds awful, but it's meant to be a compliment to everyone. You're not unique in StartOut either because there are so many incredible founders who are doing incredible things and all of whom have, there's something special, I think, especially about queer entrepreneurs too, that I find that there are great ideas that will make money and change the world and solve a problem. And so often among the queer entrepreneurs I meet, they are important to them personally. There's that double bottom line of personal mission and success and growth, or mission for the work that they're doing. I think yesterday I had coffee with someone here in Chicago who is an incredible founder, and she started a company called Campo, taking alpaca wool from Peru, um, and women who farm alpacas in Peru and bringing it to the market in the U.S., where they can make significantly more money. And she's great and she's incredible. And it's because she wants to make sure that there's more opportunities for more women around the world to participate in economic opportunities. And that's what's so neat. And it's really exciting for me. Asha just talked about her founder's story. For me, the most exciting time is when StartOut becomes part of a founder's story, and their success story and moving forward. And so anytime I meet anyone, no matter where it is here in town or across the country, it's a thrill.
Fantastic, Brian. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for our Q&A. I'll turn it over back to Brian to close us out.
Yeah, sure. And thank you. And thank you again, Genesis and Tarik and Danny, for putting this together, and Asha and Omar. And I also have to say thank you to our entire board of directors, all of our volunteers and programming board members, the mentors we mentioned, and the staff who just do this great work every day. You heard shout outs about Danielle and Allison and Irene and several other great staff members as well. And I want to make sure, it's so exciting to see there were 51 people on the call and there's still 46, so only 5 people dropped off from our peak. But I want to remind everyone we've got other things happening. Tomorrow, Asha talked about the Spark Lab. Tomorrow, applications are due, so it's not too late. Get it in now for May 9th. Then our Growth Lab, that's our accelerator lab, those applications open on May 19th, so just in 10 days. And then StartOut Con, for anyone in San Francisco or wants to join and come out to the Bay, will be a day and a half of networking, community, investor roundtables, founder roundtables, and some incredible speakers, including Gabby Tuft, former WWE superstar and now TikTok superstar, who will talk about her founder journey as our keynote, and some other great folks as well too. That's June 4th and 5th in San Francisco. And then for those on the East Coast, the StartOut Awards, it's all the way October 16th. Tickets will go on sale right after StartOut Con, but mark your calendar now. And no matter where you are, we've got events regularly, virtually, and in cities around the country. So go to startout.org/events to learn about those. That's the programming note. The one final thing I want to say to everyone are things that you can do now to make a difference in the lives of our founders and the lives of our community. 3 things everyone can do. First, follow us. If you're not already following us, follow us at StartOut and StartOut Community on Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. Post about today. If you were inspired by Asha and Omar, give them a shout out. Volunteer. You heard all sorts of ideas about mentoring and how important that is. That in the programming board, there's great ways that you can volunteer in your community on your own time. Email us at info@startout.org to volunteer. And then the next slide, most importantly right now for some of these issues we talked about, is to donate, right? We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Everything we provide to Asha and Omar and our hundreds of founders across the country is absolutely at no cost to them. So we need your support. If everyone who's on the call today donated $30 right now by scanning that QR code or taking your phone and texting Town Hall to 53555, if you donate just $30 today, that together means that we would raise enough money to support a whole nother founder, because it takes $1,500 to support a founder for the year. We really need that support. So please take a moment. I'm pausing for you to take a moment. Scan the QR code and then text us. And most importantly, beyond those 3 things, just continue to be incredible entrepreneurs, continue to be incredibly and fabulously queer, continue to be incredibly and fabulously allies to the queer community, because as we've said time and time again today, community makes the difference. StartOut as a real community. You saw it today. You saw it in the chat box, and I hope that you will join us in any way that you can. As Danny just dropped in the box, email us at info@startout.org. If you have any questions, you can email me personally at brian@startout.org. And I hope to see you at our next StartOut event soon. Thank you. Have a great Thursday, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Recording will be shared by early next week. Have a great rest of your day.